kisses of the sun. With gentle touch, it means so much to bring our friends into this reality. We set each other free.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Eagles Nest podcast. It is good to be back. Took last Sunday off, had some family in town, did some whitewater rafting, and went and checked out Bishop's Castle over here in Colorado. That's a really cool thing. If you haven't checked that out, put that on your list when you visit Colorado. If you're from Colorado, go check it out. It's a nice day trip. Bishop's Castle. It's free, open to the public, open to donations and everything like that. But yeah, you can walk through it just totally free. It's a castle someone's made. It's super cool, man. Yeah, and then we did 10 miles down the Browns Canyon stretch of the Arkansas River, close to Salida. So that was cool. Water was really cold. Took me a few days to recover. Realized I was over 40 years old, and it's been a few years since the last time I whitewater rafted, but definitely it was fun. Class 2 and 3 rapids. Um, yeah, I had a great visit with the family. Had my mother-in-law come out, my niece, spent a week out here. The, started off the trip by getting robbed. By getting robbed, my vehicle got robbed in the parking lot of the hotel when the first night. Yeah, I lost a bunch of things. My wife's wallet, her purse, a bunch of clothes, some cannabis that we had in the truck. Man, a bunch of stuff. Spent a pair of sunglasses, bunch of yeah, but it was definitely a test, and to see if we were gonna let it dictate like the trip with the family, and it didn't. We ended up having a really great time. So yeah, it was really fun. But man, I have got a special guest for you tonight. It's my buddy Paul Heineck. I met him in person last year in Laughlin, Nevada, and yeah, I'm so excited to get him on here tonight. So Paul is one of the sons of Dr. J. Allen, the late day Dr. J. Allen Hynek. He headed up Project Blue Book. It was the Air Force's secret UFO program back in the 50s and 60s. So he is gonna come in here talk about his what it was like growing up in the Heineck household, and his viewpoint of Project Blue Book and all that stuff. And then we're gonna get into some other stuff. We're gonna maybe get into some crypto. He's a crypto wizard, and he's gonna lay out the connection between the current UFO state and crypto, and how crypto ties into the current phenomenon and everything going on. That's gonna be awesome. Can't wait to get him on. Uh, a few housekeeping things. Let you know where I'm gonna be at. Looks like I might be going to. Oh yeah, give you a heads up. It is still monsoon season out here in southern Colorado in the San Luis Valley, and yeah, it's popping off right now as we speak. So if you hear any lightning, thunder in the background, it's live radio. Can't do nothing about it. Thunder beings are just wanting to join in. My name is Blue Thunderman, but so yeah, it's kind of fitting that they're here talking with us today. And yeah, if I didn't say it earlier, man, it's good to be back, guys. Having a week off from the podcast. It's definitely good to be here. Have a great guest for you tonight. And let's see, housekeeping. Let's see. Okay, Star Knowledge Conference coming up in South Dakota. That's coming up in November 11th, 12th, and 13th, I believe. I'm 95.75% sure I'm going to be taking part in that conference. I've been asked, and yeah, it's not locked down, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be going to that one. Definitely come check me out in Florida at the Zen Awakening Festival, November 18th, 19th, and 20th. That's a 3-day event. Going to be speaking there, going to be playing some music there, maybe doing some sound healing, some guided meditations, things like that. And yeah. Oh, end of this month, if you want to set with me and Ella in two all night ayahuasca ceremonies, traditional ayahuasca ceremony, we're going to be drinking ayahuasca. Um, you can come join us. You can come find the links at cosmictreeoflife.org. And that's going to be up in Minnesota. Comes with a cab. You get a cabin, meals, all that. 2 nights, all night ayahuasca ceremonies. I think it's Friday and Saturday night, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's the end of this month, the weekend of the 27th, August 27th. So at this point, if you've already done ayahuasca ceremonies before, we can still fit you into this upcoming ceremony with the dietas and everything. So we still have openings. If you want to set with us, come set with us. And there's future ceremonies coming up if this is too soon for you. But go check out cosmictreeoflife.org. Also, you can go check out our website, Sacred Journeys Within, and I have Ella put maybe a link or something that can link over to cosmictreeoflife.org. And my people over there at Cosmic Life, if you're on the podcast right now, send over something, a link or something, and in the comments, and I'll post it up in the comment section. Yeah, let's see what else. That's about it. Still working on the guests for the upcoming shows and everything. I might do an AMA to fill in some time, but yeah, tonight I am not going to prolong this any longer. And ladies and gentlemen, hold your applause for one moment and let me introduce Sir. He's been knighted by the Queen, Sir Paul Heineck, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Eagles Nest podcast. Paul,
hello,
how you doing,
Lord
brother?
Blue Thunderman.
How's
Hey,
it
Drew, I
going,
got to
man?
tell you, that's your unfortunate story about being robbed. That's not what we're looking for when we go for a dissociative experience, my friend.
I know it, man. It was very 3D, very put me back into the body.
Yeah.
So Paul, you are the son of the great late Dr. J. Allen Hynek. What was it? Just the first question. What was it like growing up? And I know because I've been to some conferences. I've seen you speak in person. I've seen other podcasts that you spoke at. I will share with the audience, what was it like growing up in the headquarters of Project Blue Book, in a sense?
So I think however you grow up, good, bad, both, is normal to you until you have the luxury of time to compare it to others. So as we're growing up, I have 3 brothers and a sister. None of us at any point thought, hey, this is interesting or unusual. It just was what we were used to. And it wasn't only UFO related. My father was a scientist. He was an astrophysicist. And he had a side hustle in his later years of UFOs. I don't think he really identified himself as a UFO guy, but as a scientist. So in our house, it wasn't only UFOs, although I don't know life without UFOs, but it was about science, right? And about curiosity and investigating things. And that's the sort of spirit he inculcated in all of us. Looking back, I'll say it was super cool. My parents were both awesome folks. It was a time when, kids could run around outside and go on their bikes all day outside and be safe. And it was, the sort of intellectual heritage that we all got of two parents who really prized learning, and one who was a teacher. That was phenomenal.
So did your dad ever did he ever come home from a day at work and was not talkative or super talkative? Was there any specific moments that strike out to you that okay, my dad had a really different day today. And looking back on it now that you know everything that went on, was there any or times that you can recognize where like, man, dad was really excited this time or whatever?
So in terms of like not being talkative, that was the earlier years before I was around. So my older siblings can they know more about Project Blue Book days. I was sort of the second wave, Close Encounters of the Third Kind and the 70s and all that. And so that wasn't so much a man in black thwarted another investigation or some kind of administrative bullshit at Project Blue Book.
Mm-hmm.
It would be just very interesting things like the Pascagoula case, or other things that he just found to be super interesting. And he did. He got, my father wasn't a religious guy, but he had spiritual beliefs. And so he had no problem as a scientist thinking that there might be some esoteric underpinning to all this phenomena. And he was trying to weave that together. So lots of times he was interested and excited about either a new case or a discussion with Jacques Vallée or anything else that really just stimulated him. And it could be internal that he's thought of something or external, another case that he's investigated. But yeah, he was, I would say, as far as his UFO side hustle, he quite liked his work.
Yeah, I bet. So for people that might not know, and you just bring up Jacques' name, so it's a perfect time to interject this. Your father and Jacques was depicted in a movie, actually, the Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So that their actual life's work was depicted as characters in this movie. Is that correct?
So yeah, a little bit different for each of them. Jacques was depicted as a character, the different name, and my father had a cameo role in the movie, so he actually appears himself.
Yeah. I remember that he actually appeared himself. Yeah, I was just picturing that in my mind.
From his classification system, and a lot of the things that happen in the movie are things that he and Jacques told Steven Spielberg from the UFO literature.
So yeah, I wanna jump into the Spielberg aspect of this for a second and see what your thoughts are on that or knowledge is, but so your father was even back then, as a child, he knew about the consciousness aspect of this phenomenon. Like he had, is that a correct assumption from what you were telling me?
Absolutely.
That this is, I mean, anybody that spends any time looking into this or has had actual experiences or things like that, they'll tell you right away, this is not nuts and bolts. This story's not about the nuts and bolts at all. It's more about the consciousness aspect. The nuts and bolts and the flight trajectory and things like that are very small parts of it. The consciousness aspect is really key to really trying to understand any of it. It's really interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know. So do you know how long it took him to come to this conclusion from a scientific aspect that this was a consciousness phenomenon?
Yeah, and I'm not. So I'll say this. So when he was approached by the Air Force to study what were then called flying saucers, he thought, okay, that's probably all of the weekend's work. There's nothing to it. So by the time that he personally felt convinced that there was a real bona fide phenomena, whether or not extraterrestrial in origin or something else, I think by that point, he probably already also thought, hey, this is not simply, like you said, nuts and bolts. There's something much more to this. Extraterrestrial could well be part of it, but the classic extraterrestrial hypothesis doesn't seem to explain nearly all of the phenomena. And Jacques was very vocal about that. So if you go from there are no flying saucers to the UFO phenomena is real and it's not only extraterrestrial, it's kind of an intellectual baby step from there to some kind of consciousness aspect to it. I think it just follows naturally.
Yeah. Man, so if your dad knew about it, that meant the government has known about it. How long from your knowledge has government known about that this is a consciousness the consciousness aspect of this is what you really need to understand. Like I know I mean Tesla Tesla kind of put it out there. If you open your eyes to it or open your heart to what the vibration of his message, it's all the same thing. Like if you understand frequency of vibration, you could really understand it. So how long has the government known about this, Paul? Like that you know of?
I don't have any idea what the government knows or possesses or thinks, and I don't really care. I saw my father get yanked around for decades by the government with false flags and disinformation campaigns and all sorts of chicanery. And what's more, I don't think the government should disclose anything. If you and I did this, I was at the MUFON symposium, and I asked a room, I said that exact same. I don't think the government should disclose anything during a panel discussion about government disclosure. And I said, well, look at it this way. Pretend that all of us in here, there's like 50 of us in the room, pretend all of us are the top brass at the Air Force. And we are loyal, committed Air Force career professionals. And we either have come upon or have recently been informed of a crashed saucer in our possession. What are we going to do with that? Are we going to disclose that for the benefit of humanity? Are we going to disclose it for any reason at all? Show me your hand if any of you would disclose that for any reason. And not a single hand went up. So now we're not Air Force people. And as a citizen, I would like to know what they have. But I don't expect them to really disclose anything unless they absolutely have to. And even if they do, I will only trust it, 20%. So It's not their job. It's not the Air Force's job to better humanity. It's the Air Force's job to kick ass. So if they have something, from their point of view, there's nothing to gain. They would lose some type of informational, technological superiority. Mm-hmm. They could affect the fabric of national security. So, and to your point, Drew, if indeed they realize that this phenomena transcends the physical and goes to a metaphysical consciousness layer, all the more reason for them to not give up the crown jewels of the secrets they have.
Yeah, that's it's definitely a thread puller. It's definitely the understanding of consciousness and putting the power back to the people is definitely pulling the thread of the fabric of how everything is designed, and it's unraveling. I believe it's unraveling as we speak. Because more and more people are getting past the moment of seeing, having their experience, and then delving in and trying to figure out, what that meant for them. And
so you're kind of a, I don't want to say bipolar, but you have a duality here. You're a former serviceman. When you were there, and let's say you're having a positive experience, you're dedicated, you come across something, I don't think your thought would be, oh, I need to call, the New York Times. It would be, how do I secure, the mission op or whatever it is that you're doing? Mm-hmm. And then also there's another element that Jacques told me about how the current Nuclear Regulatory Commission, which is the successor to the Atomic Energy Commission, has the purview, for example, all around White Sands nuclear testing range in New Mexico. That incorporates Roswell, San Antonio, Socorro, where all these famous cases are. Mm-hmm. And if there were saucers that were recuperated, they could well have been by the then Atomic Energy Commission, and they don't answer to the president. They have a completely separate security system and classification system, rather. So if they have it, a FOIA request, a congressional mandate isn't going to do diddly squat. They're going to be even more secretive than, let's say, the Air Force.
Well, yeah, so, those are all no-fly zones, correct? Anyways, but those are all those sites are close to or on the 32nd parallel that runs runs just a few hundred feet below my house. Like I'm very close to the New Mexico. I'm right there on the line of New Mexico and Colorado. I'm about 20 minutes from New Mexico. So the 32nd parallel runs across there, and that's one of the meridian. And we're going to jump into this other realm of conversation here in a minute. But the meridian point, the energetic ley lines, and the chakra system of the Earth is definitely been a well-known thing for a while in the UFO researcher realm. But I didn't know about it until I moved here, and then I figured out why this house coming into my realm, and this is why this property come into my realm. But I've seen craft. This is the first time I've ever seen craft travel east to west. I've seen craft in other spaces at Shasta, Joshua Tree, different places. But here, this is the first time I've ever seen craft travel east on an east to west line.
Oh wow!
And,
okay.
And yeah, it's pretty interesting. But yeah, man, what's so Project Blue Book, that was definitely a part of your life, and definitely still is a part of your, always will be. Whenever the Heineck name ever comes up, you're always going to have, oh, Dr. J. Allen Heineck. It's going to be part of it. But moving on, you have come across a connection. You're a professor. You teach as well. And part of your lesson plan is the connection, and you're a crypto wizard too. I know that this is gonna, a lot of people in the chat rooms ears are gonna perk up right now. What's crypto's a big thing. Is this a moment in time, or is this the future, Paul? The crypto.
Okay, so before we go down the wormhole here, let me sort of set the stage that I think crypto, and we're both saying crypto, we're not saying cryptocurrency, because the crypto movement, broadly speaking, is about decentralization and sovereign individual rights and securities. One of the manifestations of that is in currency. Another one is in voting. So if you strip everything down to the substrate, it's about individual rights and decentralization. You and me being able to communicate freely, securely, privately. You and me being able to exchange value directly between us. Decentralization, because the centralized world of the corrupt US dollar and other governments, there's not a single American, I think, who would raise his hand and say, yes, the US government reflects my wishes. I don't care where on the political spectrum you are. So there is a kinship that I think exists that not many people have either cared to think about or have seen between crypto and UFOs. In both of these realms, there's a key similarity that the US government in particular is a bad faith actor as a centralized entity that's controlling the secrets, the future, the regulations of UFO and crypto, because they feel threatened by each of them.
Sounds like a bad movie.
Horrible movie, right?
Sounds like a bad movie.
It is. It's a nightmare. And so with both of them, in crypto and UFOs, we don't know what the government has. We don't know what they're going to do. And we'd be better off without dealing with them or being abused by them. So that's sort of the start. Bitcoin in particular, well, let me say this. We will soon colonize Mars. There's no doubt about that. Now, when those Martian colonies are up and running, what currency will they use?
I don't think they're going to be taking pocket change up there, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to want to use the US dollar and worry about what the Fed is going to do and monitor Fed broadcasts.
And
They're
if
not going
it
to take
gets
any other currency. I think they will accept Bitcoin, which I think will then be called Earth coin. And then they'll say, hey, but that's not really great for us. And they'll make their own Mars coin. And I think every civilization, as long as there are individuals who have individual rational economic interests and there's no magic, will inevitably develop a currency much like what we know as Bitcoin. And, it's beyond the purview of this podcast to talk about why Bitcoin is good for the environment and all, shoot down all the other
yeah.
misperceptions about it. But
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's going on about it. So do you think that not to interrupt you, but I don't want to skate past this. Do you think that there's ever going to be one currency? So like even when I'm not going to say if anymore. Even when we go interstellar, like do you think that we can ever all agree on like just maybe a human currency or something like that or galactic currency? Wouldn't it be easier with one centralized currency that was non-physical?
oh man, you said the C word. A centralized currency does not reflect equitably the interests of those who use it. I don't know how many currencies we'll have. We could have different currencies for different things. I do believe that Bitcoin will be the one currency that other civilizations treat or trade with us with. I think that will sum up. I think we could have lots of currencies on Earth, but it has to be decentralized for it to be long lasting. All these centralized currencies, the US dollar, the euro, the Japanese yen, are centralized fiat currencies and they will all die.
I feel that too, man. I was just in Taos, New Mexico about 2 days ago. I was in a metaphysical store, walking through there, looking at crystals. I'm always looking at crystals, but
That's a
wa-
different C word.
yeah, that's a different currency. But walking to the back, I turned and looked. I thought it was an ATM. It was a Bitcoin machine in the back of a metaphysical store in
Rock
Taos,
and
New
roll.
Mexico.
Rock and
Yeah,
roll.
not the first time I've seen them, but I haven't done it. I don't see them often. It's very, very interesting that, especially that they're hitting, these spiritual stores and things like that.
And right. And if, at first glance, it is a little bit, anachronistic, but again, it comes back to, spiritual UFOs. We're looking for the truth and we're not finding them from the government.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is sort of the truth and integrity of value, and we don't get that from the government. So there really is a great philosophical link between them. And I think a lot of people think that our nuclear capabilities are sending out negative beacons in the universe to other civilizations that we may pose a threat to ourselves and or others. Conversely, I think the digital breadcrumbs of Bitcoin could well be sending out a positive message that we have gotten to this point where we put on our collective big boy pants and we're now ready to join in some kind of galactic federation.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's there's definitely something changing. You can feel it like on a bigger scale, There's definitely the tide is changing, I believe, just in the universe, the ether. If you can feel it, you can feel it. One thing that's been on my mind lately, and it's kind of a conundrum, because fall into this category too. Um, my podcast, my books, and everything. Part of my story is I'm a combat veteran. I did 2 tours in Iraq, The job I had was had to have a secret security clearance. So there's all these things that come about, but it, it hit me the other day, like we are so conditioned to listen to people that have history in the government, history in the military, history as a police officer or a detective, things like that. Those experiencers automatically have validity when they come forward. This is ingrained in people. They're like, okay, they're involved in the government. When in the background, a lot of us are distrusting the government. So it's a weird conundrum that is that I'm a part of, but it's something I noticed the other day that even though we don't trust the government, we trust people that have been involved in the government, and
Right. Yeah.
it's just a weird paradox that happens.
And I think along with that is that the government is not one monolithic block acting in concert. It's all these, rival fiefdoms with turf wars and different agendas. So, and you see that with both crypto and UFOs. That this agency wants this and this agency wants that, and they are deathly, they're enemies. And so the government lurches forward in one direction, likely not from some grand design, but because some agency that wanted something got an upper hand over the other agencies that didn't want that.
Yeah, it's just it's very weird, because a lot of other and I'm not directing this at anyone in particular, but so other podcast hosts, they focus on um people that's been in the government to bring forward disclosure, or talking about when's the government going to have disclosure. And I think me and you're both on the same wavelength that disclosure is not going to come from the government. Disclosure is going to come on an individual basis and through a consciousness aspect, and then it's going to take form as manifestation of the whole. But first, it's an individual sport. That's the way I see it.
Individual sport. I like that. So, I work a lot with in finance and startups and venture capital. And what I've noticed is that for founders going to a venture capitalist trying to get money, the credibility of the storyteller is more important than the story itself. I've seen founders who just carry themselves well. They just seem like they're a mensch, they're honest, they're reliable, with an okay idea, get money. And people who seemed a little bit shiftier, just not that solid with a great idea, not get money. And I know one guy who started the fastest growing startup in history, who had failed before, went to the same investors and they backed him because they just liked that he was honest about the whole thing. So for me, the US government is not a credible entity. So everything they do or say is suspect to me.
Everything, man. Like, and dude, and this is coming from a veteran that, I got, I talk about all the time. I got a tattoo, I got a flag tattooed on my arm because I was so ingrained in that brainwashed, that we are actually there. There's a lot of people in this country are getting their kids ready for go to school tomorrow morning, that a lot of them are going to raise their hand and take part in this brainwash and giving their manifestation energy to the government so they can manifest their own trap. It's crazy. And when you see it, you can't unsee it. It's hard not to see it, but I guess it's hard to see it for the first time, but once you see it for the first time, you can't unsee it. Mm-hmm. So another thing that I know that we're both passionate about is the psychedelic movement and how this is unfolding right now. My journey started probably back when I was 17, really, but really it started in 2016, the first time I drank ayahuasca. And obviously, we have a church now, 501c3, and I'll talk about it in my books and all this stuff. But I've been praying for this moment to happen for, not just ayahuasca, but really uh, this energy and this work, this plant work to hit the mainstream. And it finally has. More, Mike Tyson coming out.
Right.
Joel Lambert, Navy SEAL, has his own show on Discovery Channel. I had him on my show a few months ago. He healed through ayahuasca and iboga. Now we got Aaron Rodgers coming out, and like it seems like every day we have another prominent figure. And no matter what the stigma is, I'm not a big sports guy anymore. I don't follow sports anymore. I kind of gave that up a few years ago. It's kind of something that happens with the awakening. You kind of shift into different aspects of your life. But I do see the power and the exciting times for the masses of having these people come out that you may have never guessed that's done these medicines. What do you see this as the Great Awakening right now happening? And if you do, I'm assuming that you do. Do you see that the psychedelics are one of the catalysts of all this?
So my first psychedelic experience that I remember was putting 6 hits of acid in a ho-ho and going to see a Jethro Tull concert when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
I'd like to say it was for research purposes to understand the nature of the universe. It's pretty much just to have a good time at a concert. I think what I see, I've worked a lot in the cannabis business as well, and I see psychedelics following on the heels of cannabis. A lot of renewed clinical prestige and states starting to say, you know what, maybe we got this class 1 issue wrong too. And if, if Colorado hasn't produced 1 million cannabis crazed zombies, maybe, psilocybin isn't going to be that bad either. So I expect before long, psilocybin, ayahuasca, DMT, and others to be broadly either decriminalized or legalized, and to have, like you said, the stigma just completely washed away, and for them to assume their rightful place, as you're starting to see now, like with ketamine and other ones, for their demonstrable therapeutic benefits. And for so many of us who have experienced psychedelics and felt our own, I don't want to say truth, but felt our own valid experiences and perhaps emotional healing, whatever the government says, again, to me, don't really care. This is a wave that they cannot stop. And people are, you said awakening, they are awakening in greater numbers. I almost probably all of us know of some story of somebody talking to their older parents or uncle who is suffering from some condition about cannabis. And there's no, I don't do that. And getting them to understand that, hey, this is not your father's reefer. And getting them to understand that. And I think same thing's happening with psychedelics. Cannabis has a lot of demonstrated medicinal benefits, but psychedelics is more the emotional, mental, spiritual side. It's a little harder to prove, but there's growing bodies of evidence for that. And I think, before long, the U.S. government just can't clamp down on this stuff anymore. And people will be doing these. I mean, here you are talking about in a podcast, an ayahuasca experience in Minnesota. That's what not happened 10 years ago. And I think it's just going to get more and more. And I think it's a very welcome development because used responsibly, psychedelics can do so much to help us either disassociate from ourselves and take a step back into a sort of shortcut to mindfulness, or feel that sense of connectedness that often accompanies these, or to encounter what we feel are other beings and have this rich experience that we're able to draw upon for so many years afterwards.
Absolutely, man. I'm not only one of the co-founders of Sacred Journeys Within with my wife, but I'm also a client. This the ayahuasca saved my life, and that's why I'm such a believer in this. I've seen it help so many. We started out at Soul Quest. We did our first ceremonies, first 6 ceremonies at Soul Quest, and then we left and found, I got the message to leave, and a more traditional route was gonna come into my realm, and it did. I trusted the medicine right away, and but we went back in 2020, and me and my wife held space at Soul Quest, and we had 86 people in ceremony at that night.
How do you manage that number of people doing that?
Well, we had 30 people helping on the physical side. Me and my wife were singing, holding space, and holding the energetic space. But I talked to Chris Young. He's the owner, good friend of mine now, and we stay in contact. And when I was there in 2020, I asked Chris. I was like, Chris, how many people have walked through the doors of this church since the beginning? They opened, I think, in 2015. Year prior to, they were just, my ceremony was my first ceremony. I think there was like 18 people in there or something like that, just when they were first starting off. I asked Chris, I was like, how many people has walked through the doors of this church? He said over 15,000 people.
Whew.
Now there's a lot of mixed reviews. This people have different viewpoints, especially in the medicine community on Soul Quest. Just of it's a large facility. They run large ceremonies, and in the U.S. and things like that. And so there's a lot of mixed reviews on it. But regardless, if you take out your own judgment on it and just view how many people has been able to drink ayahuasca because of that church, regardless of all the other circumstances behind it, over 15,000. It's probably over 20,000 by this point. This is 2 years ago. That's a serious wave through the universe, bro. And that's just one church. There's 1,000 churches in the United States that's operational at this time. At least right now, and that's probably the ones that are just known about. There's I read an article one time. At any one time, there's over 1,000 ayahuasca ceremonies taking place at that time on the earth. So there's at least 1,000 ayahuasca ceremonies taking place at all times on the earth, and this was a few years ago. The number's probably risen a lot. So,
well, you're tempting this lifelong atheist to become a churchgoer now.
the church thing goes along with Religious Freedom Act and everything. That's why you see churches a lot. That's not the first choice by a lot of these people that want to put this together, but it's a church for the sake of everything. But ayahuasca is just an amazing thing. You've had experience with psilocybin and microdosing.
Yeah, psilocybin, LSD, ecstasy, cousin Molly, all kinds of marijuana and hash, DMT, which is my favorite.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, I want to do all the ones I haven't done yet, but once you start doing one of something from the DMT family tree, I find it hard to go back. Principally because for me, and not only me, but when I do it, I feel like I'm returning to convene with the same intelligence each time. And it's a qualitatively different experience than if I do mushrooms or something else and I feel connected or whatever else I feel, but it just doesn't compare to me with the feelings I get with DMT substances.
So when was your breakthrough, Paul? Like when was your spiritual breakthrough? Like when did you know for sure? Like okay, this is not hallucination anymore, and this shit's real.
Well, because I'm my father's son, I can't flat out state that mine or anybody else's experiences are what we would consider objectively real. I'll say this though, certainly feels real to me and to many others. And if you read alien information theory or other books on the topic, certainly paints a picture as to how it could be objectively real. Now, I'm interested in protocols to demonstrate that it is objectively real. I happen to feel in my heart of hearts that it can be proven that these are objectively real. Until then, the value I get from it isn't so much is it real, but is it valuable to me? And it's immensely valuable. And I think with less and less stigma, more and more responsible exploration, I think we will at some point demonstrate to sort of clinical scientific standards that this stuff and many of the encounters that are reported are in fact real. And I think then we will establish a land bridge between the phenomena of psychonauts and UFOs and perhaps other paranormal fields as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a ancient connection, that's been highlighted through history, through not just psychedelics, but we're just bunch them all into ceremonies. These indigenous ceremonies, ancient ceremonies, the connection to ET, our star brothers and sisters, and has always been there. I talk about it all the time. I have a deep Native American background in my ascension process, so definitely delved into that. And when the shocker comes of our relationship to the Star Brothers, that's the real kicker, and I think that's the moment that our relationship, multidimensional and our future self type of thing, that I think that is what the government is scared of for us to know. And they I don't know if it's so much they don't know if we can handle it. I think that they know that the whole reality is going to change once that truth is known or absorbed by the public.
I don't know. I think I don't think the U.S. government in particular has the luxury of long-term planning or fears. I think it's a bunch of people working for the government in different agencies that don't see any immediate benefit to them with psychedelics. So, for example, let's say that you are in archaeology and you're a professor and you're going for a grant and you hear about these different theories, Graham Hancock and others, about ancient archaeology. Okay, you think that's interesting. That's kind of cool, but I just don't have time. I've got to finish my grant paper. I've got my class I'm teaching coming up on Thursday, as I do on September 1st. I've got this. I got to do my book. I got that. I just don't have time. I know there's maybe about 10 of these different theories. Not all of them can be true. I don't have time to get to the bottom of it. There's no benefit for me to do so. And so I just move on. So it's not really this dogmatic Spartan shield firewall holding back the heretics. It's just a bunch of busy people that don't know what to do with that. I think a lot of that is with psychedelics in the government. The people that make bills legislating acceptable behavior have a lot of other things to do, and psychedelics is just not at the top of their list. And I think they're more concerned about their reelection than the wave of consciousness that'll happen once X number of people do ayahuasca.
Yeah, it's It's exciting times, man. I don't know what's gonna happen. I think we haven't seen anything this year. I think the rest of this year is going to be just an amazing year for everybody. I think there's a lot that's going to unfold. Um, it's already been an amazing year. I think wasn't your dad involved in the UFO hearings 50 years ago? We just had a UFO hearings.
Yeah.
Your father was involved in the first one 50 years ago. Like
Yeah.
this is a monumental time, man. Like
Mhm.
was there what's your takeaway? This is getting kind of old news now. It's been at least a month or so since the UFO hearings. But what was your takeaway from the UFO hearings? Did you get any really good nuggets out of that presentation, or
Didn't watch. Don't care.
you didn't watch it?
No.
Yeah, I watched it. There was one, they slipped up one time. They did say something about dimensional fields, and then they deferred to the private session. But I'm pretty sure that I did hear dimensional
Ah,
field or dimensional spaces in that hearing, which was very surprising for me.
sure.
I know that they go deep into it already. They've had Blue Book was not the only secret program that they've had, the government has had or will have. And it goes a lot deeper. So it's just amazing, man. So what do you think, like, what do you see happening over this next year and 2 years, like over this next 2 years?
Dude, I have the faintest idea. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing tomorrow. I don't know. I'm just sort of set the stage. I'm not optimistic about world politics or economics over the next year or two. Um, I think crypto is the salvation, but I think we could have a very rocky road. A lot of tribalism, a lot of division in the world, and not just in the U.S. Um, I think the current financial power structure is about to give way to an inexorable wave of decentralization, and they're not going to give up easily. In terms of UFOs, we certainly see what seems to be like an editorial schedule of more and more revelations and admissions. I'm not even saying the D word.
Yeah.
I think we'll see more of that. And I think we'll get more good data from citizens. And I think at this point, most surveys show that more than half of Americans believe in UFOs. So it's not like we're a minority at this point. And I think it's just going to get more and more. And I think we're going to get to a point where at some point we look back and say, how did we? I don't remember getting here. It's like the frog in the increasingly warm water. And I think hopefully we get through these next couple of years without too much, scars. And then I think we could have a very bright future on all of the fronts.
I think so too, man. It's an exciting time. So what's next for Paul? Paul's going to go back to teaching, but is there any conferences coming up? Any books? Any?
I was supposed to go to Bulgaria in September, but that got canceled. The conference, one in February in LA, but no other conferences right now. I'm working on a book, but that's not going to come out in the next few months. But yeah, so I'll be teaching. I'm working quite a lot in crypto and tech and entertainment, and I'll continue to do that. And following my sort of going down my psychedelic rabbit holes as much as I can.
Cool, man. We need to get you and Jimmy. I've been trying to talk Jimmy into doing ayahuasca ceremony. I don't know if he's down. He's looking for a short-term thing, but man, we just need to get a bunch of the top echelon in the UFO community that's never done ayahuasca, and let's go out and do a ayahuasca ceremony, but a CE5. Like, I got a perfect spot in Crestone. It's a meteor impact site. I've been wanting to do a CE5 there.
Hey, I love Crestone, and I just checked my calendar, Drew, and I'm free that night, so I'm good.
Yeah. What night's that?
Whatever night you're doing that.
Whatever night I'm doing that sounds good, man. Well, I know you have I know you have some things that popped up and wanted to only stay for an hour. I'm gonna make you commit to coming back on sometime in the future, and getting another temperature reading on the UFO community. But hey, Paul, I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your time, man. And stick around for just a minute, and I'll talk to you once I shut the show down.
Cool. Rock and roll.
Hey, thanks everybody. This has been Paul Heineck, and yeah, hold up, applause in the background. All right, man. I'll talk to you in just a minute, brother. Wow, everybody, that was Paul Heineck. This has been another night of the Eagles Nest podcast. If you're listening over on Facebook, over on either the lives over on Facebook or Sacred Dreams Within, or on my personal page, go like and subscribe my YouTube channel, Eagles Nest podcast over on YouTube. Like it, subscribe it. We just passed 300 subscribers. It's going slowly, but yeah, just help us spread that out. Oh, if you're over on Facebook, I posted a video. I shared a video. Billy Carson left a short review of my videos and my books. I'm Perfect and So Are You, and Find Your Inner Guru. Appreciate it, Billy. Yeah, appreciate that so much that you took time out to share some words about my books. Check them out. The video is over on my personal Facebook page. It's awesome to have icon like that talk about your books and really put out some good words of that. But yeah, thanks again to our guest Paul Heineck. He's a awesome person. Just a great sense of humor, great being, and a great mind. Love having conversations with him. And he had some things pop up right before he messaged me right before we started. So, and said that he could give me an hour. So I kept him for an hour for you guys. And yeah, it was. I'm gonna have him back on soon to continue a conversation. But yeah, Paul Heineck, guys, and join us next Sunday. Got some special people lined up. Don't have. I'm just gonna keep it as a secret. You're gonna have to subscribe to my YouTube channel to get notifications for next week. And yeah, we got some cool guests lined up. So stay tuned, like, share, subscribe, and have a good night. Go look at the stars tonight if it's a clear night, and see if you can find anything. Talk to you guys later.